I'm Sonya. I'm a lead security engineer at Photobox. I'm currently based in the UK. I'm also part of the GitHub Star program and an ambassador at Girl Code organization. And I'm also the founder of Epic Women in Cyber and Epic Women in Tech. I don't have a CS degree. I studied international business and geopolitics, and I have worked as a consultant for over 10 years. But I started from a young age to interact with computers, and that was because of my mom. My first machine was an MSX MPC 200 from the Japanese brand Sanyo, and this was my first experience with computers, with Konami video games, with programming, and the blue screen of death as well. I also continue to do coding on the side as a hobby, so by creating small websites, using PHP, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This was the time where you could dabble with the CSS on your MySpace profile and think that you were the best webmaster at the time. But I also didn't see it as a career. I was always doing it on the sides, and I was entirely self-taught programmer. But when I was based in South Korea, this was 10 years ago now, in plus of learning Korean, I went back to programming. I was working as a consultant for Korean companies, and they wanted me to create and maintain their websites. So I went back to coding and became full-time. So I was doing from scratch the wireframe, the front end, the back end, hosting, maintenance, security, et cetera, all of the coding and programming that they were requiring for that. When I moved to London, so at my previous workplace, I was sitting next to the security team. And I had the chance to see what they were doing. So I was really curious. I was asking a lot of questions about the tools, the platforms they were using, and all of that. And then I started becoming unofficially one of their security champion, which is great because it helped me bridging between the developers and the security team. And after a certain time, they actually asked if I would like to join the security team. And that's how my security journey started when I became fully working in the cybersecurity industry. So it does involve a lot of things because we are a small team. So we have to wear many hats. It's a good thing because you get to experience a lot in different disciplines. It should be GRC, applications, cloud, network, incident response, etc. So there's no typical day. I look after network, web applications, cloud security. It goes from security reviews to defining entire programs. So I'm also in charge of tailoring programs to diffuse a more DevSecOps approach. So doing like gap analysis, implementing tools within their CI/CD pipeline, doing vulnerability management, risk assessments. So basically, when there's something that can be improved in the business, I'll need to find the best tool, the best platform solution to be implemented. This would require doing a quick POC presentation to the engineers, obviously to have their buy-in and embark them in the journey. Because at the end of the day, they'll be the user of the tool or the platform, so they need to understand what problem we want to solve and how also we want to solve that problem with that specific tool or platform. Then there's the implementation phase to make it production ready, because it's great to have a POC working on your local machine, but it's even better if it's working on production level. There's also a big piece of work around education. So I like to run workshops and demoing real life examples. So if there is a data breach, just to explain to the engineers how it works, the impact that it could have on the business, just to make it relevant to the team and the business. And just to make also security a little bit more understandable and not cryptic, not using jargon. Because we know we're using a lot of abbreviations and jargon, but it's also good to make that understandable and a bit more sexy for the engineers to understand what we're dealing with. And they actually like it to have live demo. They find it quite cool. So I would say more on the soft skills side. When you travel, you obviously learn a lot, especially when you're a young woman traveling on your own. You learn how to protect yourself. So how you approach a situation, how you look for information, which is good if you're doing OSINT. It's great to have that kind of skill. I also think the biggest one is resilience. Traveling on its own is obviously challenging. So you learn a lot about other cultures, but you also learn a lot about yourself, your limits. Also, I'd say patience. When I was starting learning programming, having a good roadmap, for example, is necessary. So learning coding requires a roadmap because you need to know where you want to go. For example, where you want to work, which region, because each region will use different technologies. So which technology makes sense just to make yourself a little bit more marketable for the company that you you want to work with. I would say also around grit and passion, which is something that you can translate to security, and obviously challenges and problem solving. So for example, learning a new language could be challenging. Learning Korean wasn't easy, actually. So being self-taught programmer is challenging. So all of those challenges and all of those soft skills could translate to security on the soft skills and add some nuance to the tech skills, because tech skills could be easily, not easily, but you could actually learn it on the spot, on the job. But soft skills is a little bit more hard to grasp. So having those kind of experience helped on that. Sure. So I wanted to have a new challenge. So I attended a meetup in London where the head of digital team at Prime London was looking to build his team. So I volunteered at Prime London for over 2.5 years as a tech lead and security manager. I left the organization earlier this year to focus on other projects, but I was in charge of building the website and the application. I was also in charge of building the team from scratch and convey the vision that we had as a digital team at the moment. So at some point, I had around 20 developers before the pandemic. Obviously, during the pandemic, the team has been hit, and we've lost some developers because they had other things to deal with in pandemic and life. So it has been an interesting and important experience for me. It was a volunteering experience, but I was so involved that people around me were joking and saying it looks like my second full-time job at some point, because I was talking about Pride every time, all day long. So we were working using agile methodologies. So we're doing sprint reviews, sprint demo. We're using project management tools, backlogs, all of those that we usually use during for agile. We had weekly catch up with my team. This is actually a great help during the pandemic also to have those regular catch up with the team. It's also good to have. So I also implemented a more DevOps approach workflow, and I did it using extensively the GitHub Marketplace. So GitHub has a marketplace where you could use applications or tools that can help you creating a CI/CD pipeline with all tools available. So around code review, code quality, security, compliance, third-party packages, SaaS tools, all of those. And it's actually really easy to add to your public repository, because Prime London was an open source project, well, is an open source project. And I wanted to enforce security also for the maintainers. So I created different groups and permissions for the maintainers. So one team was allocated to the application, another one for mobile. So they have different kind of permissions. 2FA obviously was required by default. So we had secret management and all of those. I've also implemented chat ops, and we're using Slack. So basically our source of truth was GitHub with the pull requests. When the developer was raising a PR, we had all of the tools installed that will kick off and give us some confidence to if we want to merge, obviously after the code review. And we had thresholds also to support that confidence. And we had Slack, which is the bit for chat ops, where we had all the integration from GitHub and the tools for monitoring and also for incident response. The good thing during those 3.5 years, we didn't have big outage. The only time the website was down was when Cloudflare was down. And it was, I think, a quarter of all the website were down using Cloudflare. So it wasn't our fault. And also because during the weekend of Pride, we had around 500,000 visitors and the website was up and running. So this was great success for the team, and we're really happy to have that. We're also using extensively GitHub boards for project management. And as I said, I wanted to focus on implementing security guardrails within open source projects. Because it's an open source project, you could also implement all the guardrails that you're using in a company. Regardless if it's an open source or a company, you can also do the same, and without being a blocker for the developers, obviously. And I took that experience and talked about it at many conferences and events just to diffuse that idea that you could do the same for open source project, and it's actually really easy to implement security guardrails in your open source project. So there's an origin story to that. So it started during the summer 2019, where I was scrolling on my Twitter feeds and seeing that hashtag FF Follow Friday. And I was always seeing the same names again and again. So I thought to myself that maybe I could use that Follow Friday hashtag to discover new people in the industry. So I started looking for women working, studying, just interested in the industry on Twitter and LinkedIn, and who should have some more visibility for all the amazing work they were doing around the world. So every Friday, I was reaching out to 20, 30 women, and on Twitter, I was mentioning and tagging them. I started to collate all the names on the list, which is available on the Medium publications for epic women in cyber. So it was getting more and more momentum. I got also messages from people surprised to see many women in the industry. I was surprised actually to get this message. Yes, obviously there are many women in this industry. So then I moved to another format, and that's when I started the interview series. So the goal is simple. I have the same set of questions for everyone to capture their journey. This is to showcase their experience and challenges. This is also to inspire young women to choose this industry, to inspire women who would like to make a career change, to show that women around the world are driving amazing initiatives, and sometimes they don't get enough attention on what they're doing, and also for our allies to be inspired. I wanted that platform where people can be inspired by all these women, regardless of their origins or backgrounds, etc. I just wanted stories from women in cyber from Asia, Africa, Middle East, South America, worldwide, just to be known and recognized. And also because their story can resonate to anyone in the industry. So I found out that this was also a good opportunity for these women to be featured by their company on LinkedIn or within their internal communication platform. Some of these women are finally recognized, which is great and sad at the same time, because you shouldn't wait for an article to be recognized for what you're doing. But I got messages from these women saying they got promotions, they got pay reviews, they increased their network, they had opportunities in conferences. So it was really great to see that momentum and that finally that recognition for these women. So I decided to expand the initiative to Epic Women in Tech, which is basically the same, but just to broaden the industry. And in March, I won an award for this initiative, which is the Ally of the Year, People's Choice. But again, I'm not doing this for recognition or for getting awards. I do generally think that this is something that needs to be done, and I consider it as my mission to do. So yeah, that's my motivation. So I have a really cheesy answer for that. I have been inspired by my parents. It's probably a classic one. But I'm also inspired by all the women that I have interviewed, just to see their journey, their challenges, what they've achieved, their impact on the community. So I would say that all of them are my inspirations. I don't have any specific role model. I would just consider all of those amazing women too, and the future that I'm going to interview as inspirational. Also, I don't have any mentors, but I've been mentoring a lot of young women in tech and cyber, and I do know that the impact of having a good mentor also could help. But yeah, no, I haven't found a good mentor at the moment. So yeah, I would say first of all, join a community or a meetup. So for example, I'm based in the UK. I would say a community like London Hacking Society or OWASP or Women in Cloud or Girl Code, which is more like worldwide. Just try to find a community or a meetup that you have in your region, in your country, because usually these communities are a safe space where you can ask questions. They have many channels, should be Slack Workspace, Discord channel, or their own messaging app. You can meet with other people, you can create your network, you can find a mentor, you can also find your next job, who knows. So it's important also to create your network, not only to get your next job, but also to ask questions on different disciplines that you could find in the cybersecurity world. If you have the possibility, join events or conferences on the topic you have interest in. So ethical hacking, cloud, DevOps, whatever is the topic that you have interest in. This will give you an insight to the industry. If you can't, obviously because of the pandemic and all this, a lot of the conferences videos are usually on YouTube. So for example, Black Hat, DEF CON, OWASP, and many others. I would recommend to have a look at that. And also one thing, if you're a young girl or a woman, just do it. Don't let the gatekeepers tell you that you can't do it. Just find your community and start from there. That's a good start. Do you have quite a few for that, depending on your interest? So if you're interested in ethical hacking, I would recommend a couple of websites. So try Hack Me and Hack the Box. Try Hack Me might be a little bit more beginner friendly. Hack the Box can be a little bit daunting if you don't know where to start. Try Hack Me, they do have a step-by-step walkthrough. If you're stuck in a box, that's okay. You can just go and have a read on the walkthrough and see how people usually pwn the box. It's also interesting to have different point of view. There's also the academies from Portswigger, so those behind Burp Suite tool. You also have the academies from HackerOne and Bugcrowd. They usually have interesting courses around ethical hacking. For DevSecOps, I would recommend the Secure Developer. This is collaborative work between Snyk and DevSecCon. They have a podcast series. I think they're around 100 at the moment. If you like podcasts, I would strongly recommend Darknet Diaries, also really great, that takes some data breach or any cybersecurity incident and do a deep dive and explain how it happened. Also, as I mentioned, YouTube is also a great resource from amazing content creators, from Hack the Box workthrough to network pen testing, IoT pen testing to DevSecOps conferences, etc. And some of them are also moving to Twitch, so you can have that interaction with the content creator. Obviously, OWASP, because of all the free resources that they are providing. So not only the top 10, but also all the guides on testing, the tools for vulnerability management like Defect Dojo, threat modeling. Also, they have tools around education with secure framework knowledge. I would also recommend GitHub and GitLab with the marketplace to start creating your own CI/CD pipeline. Just experiment with the tools. So if you have a tech task or if you're working on a pet project, this is also a good way for you to be hands-on and just trying to build your own CI/CD pipeline, experiment with security tools. Obviously, you can do the same with the cloud computing providers. So usually AWS, GCP, and Azure, they provide free services for a year. Obviously, do put billing alerts so you don't go crazy with all the instances that you spin. But just to also create some POCs, that's a good starting point. And I also would like to raise a new initiative that has been launched today, this month, which is called Respect in Security, which is an initiative against harassment online and the workplace. So it's also a good one to follow.